this story I thought was fascinating. NPR, the Senate voted on a bill that's going to defund NPR, PBS, a bunch of those other public communications platforms. Now, the AP, the Associated Press, is just devastated by this. Oh, this is the worst thing in the world. Now, we don't need to relitigate the entirety of as to why this is such a necessary thing. And also, by the way, conservatives / Republicans have been clamoring for this since the 70s, I think. Why do tax dollars go towards effectively entertainment outfits? Now, you can make the argument for education, but to say that there's no bias or slant in any of the reporting for NPR, any of the PBS shows that are out there, woke Sesame Street jumps to mind, among many of the other issues at NPR, that is the case being made by people that want to see NPR defunded. Also, too, there's this whole thing of like, well, we barely get any federal money. Oh, give me a break. If you didn't get any federal money, I think, too, the NPR website says that less than 1% of our funding comes directly from the federal government. And yeah, I guess technically that's true. But if that were the case, if it was really just 1% of your funding coming from the federal government, then why are they so mad that it's going away? Because, name any company out there, I'm sure they can take a 1% hit in revenues / profits. But unless, of course, that's not the case, unless, of course, it is the fact that NPR gets a lot more money, which is actually the case. We've done episodes on this and we've kind of explained the entirety of this circular money funnel. But effectively, the federal government gets their money, sends money to the Communications Broadcasting Institute or something like that. It's some entity that I forget the name of as of right now. And then that money purchases the NPR syndication for a bunch of the local radio stations. So in other words, it's like it goes from 1% to like 70% of NPR's funding comes from the federal government, and the rest is like donations and ads, which, by the way, any other show that you're watching is supported by strictly ads, if not donations, if not membership fees. In other words, the free market. So why NPR would have a leg up on the free market programs, I don't know. But the AP, I thought, was really interesting in the way that they covered it. They said public television stations, and I'm reading this in a dramatic tone, will be forced to make hard decisions in the weeks and months ahead, PBS CEO Paula Kruger said Thursday, after the Senate, in the middle of the night, it's obviously sinister, voted to approve a bill that cancels all federal funding for the network and for NPR. The Associated Press goes on, radio shows and TV stations may need to lay off staffers and cut back programming. Oh no. You mean the thing that every business has had to do since the dawn of time, when things aren't working and you can't get the money that you need to maintain the staffing levels that you had? How dare we subject those government employees to something that people in the real world have to deal with constantly? The AP goes on to mention that the House is expected to pass. It's the Corporation for Public Broadcasting budget. That's what it is. That's the actual entity, that it's the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Money goes from the federal government into that corporation, and that corporation gives money out to local radio stations, and the local radio stations pay for the syndication of NPR, which is how NPR gets all of its money. It'll be zeroed out for the first time since 1967. Back, they mentioned this, back when television was still in black and white. Oh my goodness, the horror, the travesty. Bottom line here is, well, actually, let me play this video clip because I think it's really funny. This is Catherine Marr, the CEO of NPR, on, is it NBC, CBS, one of those big news outlets, where she's saying, the reason that this is all coming to a head is because we have been accused of being unbiased. And I dare you to find an unbiased piece of journalism and coverage from the National Public Broadcasting Network. Senator John Kennedy pointed a lot of those out. Watch this.
As far as the accusations that we're biased, I would stand up and say, please show me a story that concerns you, because we want to know and we want to bring that conversation back to our newsroom.
I want to give you a few examples of stories that NPR has published using taxpayer money. How racism became a marketing tool for country music. Donald Trump's long embrace of Vladimir Putin. Eating less beef is a climate solution. There is no neutral. Nice white people can still be complicit in a racist society. Scientists debunk lab accident theory. The history of policing and race in the United States are deeply intertwined. After Biden's debate performance, the presidential race is unchanged. A brief history of how racism shaped interstate highways. What can the White House do to confront the narrative around Biden's ability?
A recent history of how racism shaped the nation's highways. Yes, that's unbiased journalism there over at NPR. Good riddance, adios, best of luck in your future endeavors. Who cares? Who cares? Not in the sense of I'm glad we're saving money, but who cares in that they making their dumb pleas of, well, for one, we don't get any money, but two, please don't take it away. It's just funny. It's comical.